I'm Rick Sternbach. I'm an artist who started working in science fiction and astronomical art back in the early 70s, and then got my interest piqued by meeting up with Gene Roddenberry in 1974 when he came to do a screening of The Cage at Yale University. I had already started working, but I thought, maybe I could just, call the studio and see if I could arrange to meet him. And they said yes. And that was my first, direct encounter with someone, intimately involved in creating Star Trek. Well, I was attracted to the technology, the stories, the characters, and mostly for the reason that they, the shows, these episodes looked so unlike the science fiction films of the 50s that I grew up watching. And, in looking at the origins of Star Trek during the manned spaceflight programs that were going on, I was just hooked. Well, I was a working professional artist before I encountered Star Trek fandom. My first encounter at a Star Trek convention was in New York City in 1973 or 74. It was around that time. And I walked in there and met up with a number of people that I had heard about, people I knew in the science fiction arena, and that was my first exposure to fandom. Well, having worked for the franchise, it's very hard to pick, a favorite. If pressed for a title, I would have to say probably Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because it was an amazing reinvention of the franchise for motion pictures. I would almost have to say that my favorite character is probably Scotty, because of my interest in aerospace engineering and space flight, and any time there was an engineer in Star Trek, especially Scotty, that was something that really got my interest. Well, I met Nichelle Nichols, a couple of times over the years, very briefly when I was working on the motion picture. And then at a couple of conventions, I'd say hello. And my message to her would really be, bravo for, her work with the franchise and her inspiration. For people who wanted to get into the space field, inspiring people to become astronauts or engineers, and the what we're calling STEM and STEAM today. She was right in there pitching. I guess if there's anything else I want to say about Star Trek, after all of these decades, is that it is still an astounding launching point for anyone who has an interest in spaceflight, in science fiction, in wanting to see an optimistic future out in the solar system and maybe out into the galaxy itself.
It is following us.
On Next Generation, probably the design that I had the most fun with was the Klingon attack cruiser, the M.P.A. It was the first, major spacecraft that I had a hand in designing, from the ground up. The M.P.A, the Klingon attack cruiser, to me, represented a sharing of technologies between Starfleet and the Klingon Empire. So you'll see, not so severe a design as in the Klingon Bird of Prey, or the original battle cruiser. Perhaps during a period of détente, Starfleet, gave the Klingons some technological advantages, and the M.P.A was the result of that. So you'll see that in some of the shapes on the ship. It was a real fun project to work up. Greg Jean got the miniature put together. Eventually, a CGI model was made of the ship, and it probably still has capabilities that we haven't thought of yet. So.